And so we're going to try and work very hard to continuing to achieving certainly that goal. And so that is certainly continuing to be a priority for us as we talk about what's happening in the region.
Is the administration, is the president satisfied with those steps, though, that Israel has taken over these past 30 days? Is it enough?
I did say that they have taken steps, and those discussions continue because we need more. We certainly need more aid to be surged into Gaza. So there's more work to be done, but we have seen certainly some improvement. And again, we are going to do everything that we can. The United States, we are indeed the largest provider of humanitarian aid and humanitarian assistance into Gaza to relieve the pain of the Palestinian people. And what we're seeing, and you're right, it is dire, but those discussions continue, and we're going to be laser focused on that.
If I could just do one more on the meeting tomorrow. Can you just tell us what are the top issues that the president is bringing to the agenda tomorrow? How long you anticipate the meeting lasting? Is he having senior staff there? Like, what's this going to look like tomorrow?
So, look, President-elect Trump is coming to the White House because the president invited him as part of this peaceful transfer of power. There's going to be a pool spray at the top in the Oval Office before the meeting commences. And so you all and some of your colleagues will certainly have an opportunity to hear from, or to see that, to see the two of them sitting down together. I don't have anything beyond that. I don't have an agenda to share. It's, we try to keep these, certainly these types of conversations private, and just don't have anything beyond that to share. This is part of the process. When we talk about peaceful transfer of power, this is what you're seeing. It's kind of the beginning of that, when you see the current president and the president who's coming in, sitting down in the Oval Office and having a discussion. Don't have any details to share at this time.
Thanks, Karine. Can you confirm whether or not Mrs. Trump has accepted Dr. Biden's invitation to come to the White House as well?
Don't have any updates, or we don't have any scheduling updates to give. I would certainly reach out to the Trump transition team to get more clarity on that question. I just don't have anything to share at this time.
And can you say whether President Biden is pleased with how the transition is going so far?
I mean, look, what the president is committed to doing is making sure that this transition is effective, efficient, and he's doing that because it is the norm, yes, but also the right thing to do for the American people. That's what they deserve. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow. They're going to have a meeting tomorrow, and certainly that will continue. As you know, Chief of Staff Jeff Zients has been pretty open and available to the Trump transition team, and will continue to do so. We want this to go well. We want this to be a process that gets the job done, if you will. And so, look, it's certainly, we're going to do everything that we can. The president trusts his team to get that done and do it the best way possible. And that is our commitment. That's what I can speak to.
Just lastly, are there areas that this White House or President Biden's administration are trying to shore up or protect from a Trump administration, perhaps trying to push back or pull back on some of the legislative and other executive order and other gains that the president is proud of?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. Certainly don't have any policy announcements or anything like that to speak to. What I can say more broadly, if you will, is say that, look, more broadly, the president's legislation is helping all Americans across the country. And what we would say is that we saw what happened when Republicans in Congress tried to repeal, for example, the ACA, Affordable Care Act. They tried to do it more than 50 times. It was something that they were so laser focused on. And meanwhile, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, was incredibly popular, became more and more popular. And under this administration, we expanded the Affordable Care Act so that millions more Americans could get that benefit, get that care that they so very much needed. And we can't forget that if you think about beating Big Pharma, if you think about lowering costs, if you think about CHIPS and Science Acts, those policies are overwhelmingly popular. And so I think if they were to try to do that, Republicans in Congress would try to do that in the next Congress, the country would speak out. They would make themselves speak out really loud and clear about taking away legislation, obviously, that are now laws that are helping the American people, whether it's creating good-paying jobs, whether it is attacking climate change in a way that is going to be effective, the most progressive climate change legislation that the president was able to get done, making sure popular. And they've tried to repeal that and go after that. I think the American people will have something to say about it.
Ms. Green, just one more on tomorrow. Do you
Sure.
know if President Biden has a message that he would like to convey either to the former president or the American people, just given the unique setting we're talking about? And just in terms of the choreography tomorrow, do you know if the former president will go to the Sticks? Will he be free to roam?
So I would leave it to free the room. I would leave it certainly to Trump's transition on whatever engagement that he'll have with all of you. You know, that's certainly up to him. And I do appreciate the question because he has a very clear message to the American people, and not to sound like a broken record, but this is indeed true. He wants to show the American people that the system works, right? To trust on the institution, to trust that the norms do matter here, to trust that he is showing by leadership what a transition, a peaceful transition looks like. Hopefully an efficient, effective transition looks like, a smooth transition looks like. And that is the message. When you all come in, when the pool comes in tomorrow and does a pool spray, that's what they're going to see, right? They're going to see these two, one president-elect and the current president sitting down and doing what is the norm. And that, if you know Joe Biden, right, if you know Joe Biden from following him in the Senate and as vice president, certainly the last almost 4 years, he cares about that. He cares about our democracy. And that's the message that he hopes resonates with the American people tomorrow.
And separately, the families of the American hostages are in town. Should they, at this point, have any reason to hope that their loved ones will be released before the president's term is up?
I mean, the president is committed to continuing to do the work to get families home, to get all of the, the hostages home, including American hostages, obviously, all of the hostages. And that is his commitment to the families. As you just stated, the families are here. They met with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan this afternoon. They've had regular engagement in meetings with Jake Sullivan, but also many other members of the team here. And you know, we're going to continue to do the work to get the deal done. And if anything, there's more of an imperative to get that done, right? We want to make sure that we get them, get their loved ones home. And so that is our commitment. It doesn't change at all. If we are continuing to be eager to get that done and working around the clock as we have for this past more than a year now, more than 400 days. And so it doesn't stop our commitment. It doesn't stop us from trying to get that done.
You said he's committed to doing the work and, you know,
continuing to do the work, yeah.
And the White House is working around the clock. What does doing the work right now look like? What is working around the clock?
Trying to find ways that we can get to a deal, right? As you know, Qatar is very much involved. Egypt is very much involved. They're doing their part of the negotiations, and we want to pursue. And we believe there's a number of ways, numbers of initiatives to secure that hostage deal, to release those hostages, and we're going to work through it. We're going to continue to do that work. And that's what we can say is our commitment, and will continue, has been our commitment, and continue to do so.
Thanks, Corinne. I know you don't want to get too far ahead of the conversation, but I did want to point to something that Jake Sullivan said over the weekend. He said that President Biden would have the opportunity over the next 70 days to make the case to Congress and the incoming administration that the United States should not walk away from Ukraine. So is foreign policy going to be on the agenda for tomorrow? Ukraine specifically, Israel's war with Hamas?
I'm not going to get into the details of what's going to be discussed tomorrow. That's not something I'm going to get into here. But Look, you heard from the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, our commitment to Ukraine. I mean, that is something that we have showed for almost, 3 years since Russia's aggression into Ukraine. And you saw the president's leadership, global leadership on this. When you think about making NATO stronger, when you think about the partners and the alliances that he's been able to bring together, more than 50 countries have gotten behind Ukraine. And continuing, we talked about this on September 29th when we talked about surging aid into security assistance aid into for Ukraine so that they are able to beat back Russia's aggression. So you've seen our commitment. We've been very clear. We don't even need to say that privately because we've been very public about that. And getting to, just went back and forth about making sure that we get a hostage deal. And so that we can get hostages home, all hostages home who have been held by Hamas. And let's not forget Lebanon. We want to make sure that we get to a deal there too, and we're negotiating there. Those negotiations continue. And so our commitment has been very clear. And our global leadership, this president's global leadership, has also been very, very, very prominent, if you will, on the global stage.
And does the White House have any concerns about the number of foreign leaders who have been in conversation with the incoming president, even as President Biden heads to the G20 in the next few days, as well as Lima?
So here's the thing. He's the president-elect. Every president-elect receives calls from world leaders, takes calls from world leaders, has calls from world leaders. It is not unusual. I don't have a comment beyond that. Any specifics or details, that's something for the Trump transition to speak to. Kent Will.
Just briefly, a follow-up. Is the president, is he receptive of what the Israelis are doing to push humanitarian aid, or is he happy with what they're doing now?
I mean, I don't have a different answer for you to what I was asked by Karen. We are having those discussions. We've seen some improvement over the last 30 days. We want to see more because there is a dire situation happening in Gaza. Also, the U.S. has been leading in getting humanitarian aid, and so those discussions continue. We want to see more, and we're going to continue to have those discussions.
And just briefly on Haiti, with the situation there, do you have any statement or reaction to what's going on there with the violence and those being targeted at this point?
Yeah, so look, we're certainly, as it relates to the commercial flight, very recently, the gun shots that were reported, so we're certainly concerned about the increase of violence in Haiti. And as it relates to commercial flights and what occurred there, the airport, Toussaint Louverture Airport, operations are temporarily closed until November 18th. And so certainly the airlines could speak more to that. But we are definitely certainly concerned by the increase of violence, and we'll continue to work with, as you know, there's a new prime minister that was named and recognized by the TPC, the Transitional Presidential Council, and so we're going to continue to work with them, and hopefully we can get to a better place. Okay.
Thank you, Corinne. Did President Biden invite Vice President Harris to this meeting with Donald Trump tomorrow?
This is a meeting with the president and the president-elect. This is the norm, that the incoming president and the current president sit down in the Oval Office and have a discussion, and that's what you're going to see tomorrow, is the norm, what we normally would see when we are talking about a peaceful transition of power.
President Biden says that he's not going to pardon his son Hunter. Is he going to ask Donald Trump to do that?
I don't have anything else to share about that. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole on this. I've been very clear. The president's been very clear when we've been asked this question.
And we know that at some point during the last Trump transition, then President Obama warned Trump that the biggest threat to the U.S. at the time was North Korea. Is President Biden going to run through what he sees the biggest threats to the country are with Donald Trump?
I am not going to get into a specific agenda of what they're going to discuss. And this is very much to the question that I got from MJ. What does the president what's the message he wants to send tomorrow? And it is to the American people. The importance of keeping the norms, the importance of having a transition that is going to be efficient. This is what the American people deserve. And that's the message. And I think when you all come into the Oval Office tomorrow, you do the pool spray, you capture that moment. That is an important message to send to the American people. That's what the president cares about. I'm not going to get into details about any conversation or agenda.
And we know that today, a week after the election, President Biden and Vice President Harris had a private lunch. How awkward was that?
I don't even understand. Why would it be awkward?
Because
Why would it
the
be
president
awkward?
got squeezed out for
Why would
her,
you-
and then she kept him at arm's length, and then she lost, and now she's back.
Why would you characterize it as awkward? They have regular lunches. They meet and talk regularly. Why would
So
you
there's
call it
no
awkward?
weirdness about the way that things have unfolded since
Did you
July
see them?
21st.
Did you see them together yesterday as well when they honored our veterans and were together during the day, making sure that we didn't forget the brave men and women that fought for this country? Did you see them together yesterday? Did you see the show of force together? This is like. I'm not even going to take the premise of the question. What I will say is the president and the vice president had lunch today. They've had lunch many times. They have they communicate with each other regularly. They had an opportunity to discuss the last 70 days or so of this administration, how important it is to get things done for the American people. And that's their focus. That is genuinely their focus. Yes, Patsy.
Thank you, Corinne. On his spray with President Prabowo, the president said that he will discuss the issue of South China Sea and advancing a free and open Indo-Pacific. Was he specifically referring to a deal that Indonesia signed a few days ago in Beijing that could be read as a de facto validation of China's 9-dash line that marks its extensive territorial claims in the South China Sea? And how concerned is the administration about this?
So we continue to encourage Indonesia to work with their legal experts to make sure any agreement they make with the PRC is in according with international law, especially the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. That I read out at the top more broadly what they were hoping to accomplish, what they were going to talk about. You just mentioned Indo-Pacific and China Sea. As it relates to this particular deal that was signed with Indonesia and Beijing, we are just going to continue to encourage that they really work with their legal experts.
So is that a statement that